Hey, it's Joe. Subscribe for more horror stories. This is translator Leonard Parrish, documenting live from Galactic Security Services headquarters on Mars. I've been tasked by the Intergalactic Court to record my findings. I will be viewing security footage captured aboard the scientific reconnaissance spacefaring ship, Kronos, during its final voyage. The date is January 1st, 2060, and I'm recording privately in Observation Room 13. Where did I put that? Here it is. I will now read for the court's reference the official mission dossier for the last assignment of the Kronos crew. The recent arrival of the black hole in the Milky Way galaxy, designated Tartarus, has necessitated immediate reconnaissance. It is not only the largest we have discovered to date, but it is also heading towards Mars at an exceptional speed. It is estimated that unless there is an immediate change in its trajectory, Mars itself may be consumed by it. Consumed? Where was I? Mars itself may be consumed. It is the objective and duty of all crew members and scientists aboard the Sci-Fi vessel Kronos to approach the black hole carefully and transmit all findings immediately back to GSS headquarters, where it will be processed further. Gotcha. I, translator Leonard Parrish, will now review all non-audible onboard recordings received from the Kronos' last voyage. As of December 31st, 2059, the Sci-Fi vessel and crew are now considered... What? Lists? Where's that code book they gave us at orientation? They are considered lost in space? How could we lose an entire ship? I mean, god damn it. How do other translators do this without messing up? I will record my findings while reviewing all assigned NOAR and hereby swear that I will not share what I discover in any unapproved format, including, but not limited to, written, spoken word, or through personal recordings. Okay. I won't tell anybody about the big bad Tartarus wolf. Now, what happened to those people? Whoa, my God. Okay. There are 3 women and 2 men that make up the Kronos crew. So far, they've just been chatting, eating, sleeping, and watching. It looks like a man and a woman are pilots, and the rest must be the scientists the dossier mentioned. Damn. What happened to you guys? Let's speed things up. Oh, what's this? Well, you sly little minxes. Scientists shouldn't be standing that close. Holy shit! They shouldn't be kissing each other either. Don't worry, ladies. I won't tell anyone. Wait. Oh, crap. Oh, what? Cut them some slack when you find them, officers. We may call ourselves Martians, but we're still human. Boring. There's nothing strange here. When does this transmission end? Midnight? Okay, so let's fast forward to... December 31st, 2059. 2300 hours. Alright, here we go, kiddos. What happened to you eggheads? What are you guys freaking out about? What? God damn it! Okay, this is court-appointed translator Parrish. Yada yada yada. There appears to be a disturbance aboard the Kronos. It's nearing around 2400 hours and... Holy shit! They just lost gravity. The pilots are buckled and seated, but the scientists are all over the place. A couple of the women are in the decompression room, trying to get suits on. Are they losing oxygen? Damn it! Television! Work! Ugh. My monitors are fully functional. I mean, it must be on the ship. Their onboard light source is starting to fade. It's getting dark and I can barely see what's happening. Wait, is that? Oh my god. One of the hatches in the loading bay tore open. The two women, they're being sucked into space. I can't tell if they managed to get their suits on. God, I hope so. Shit. The picture is getting blurry. There's so much static. They must have started losing connection to the GSS satellite. It's almost midnight. Jesus, what is happening? Wait, what's he doing? The male scientist, he's looking straight into the camera that overlooks the cockpit. He's blocking my view. It looks like he's trying to disarm it, maybe? What the hell is he doing? He's not disarming it. He's moving it. He's trying to show me what's happening. Yes! Come on, egghead, turn the fucking camera. Almost there. He's got it. Wait. Oh my god. It's the black hole. It's Tartarus. They're being sucked in. Jesus Christ. Even in black and white, it's still incredible. But the crew, they're all holding on for dear life. Everything is exploding. Oh shit. One of the scientists that got sucked out through the loading bay hit the windshield. They're dead for sure. The ship keeps getting closer and closer to the black hole. The pilots are pressing everything. Nothing is working. Ah! There was a flash of light. It burned through the screen. I can't see anything. But wait. There we go. I can finally see the screen. They're still there. They're okay. But what the hell? The ship's timestamp. I know I read somewhere that it runs on an internal clock. No, hell no. It's impossible. I don't know for sure. Well, but I swear that the date, it did say January 1st, but it was 5000. The Cyrex ship Kronos showed the date, January 1st, 5000. It's impossible. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe I didn't see anything. Please, don't make me watch it again.
Dr. Elena Gates submitting transition 2-1 free aboard the lander spacecraft Aether. We are entering Mars's atmosphere and will arrive at our coordinates within the hour. Everybody quiet. I'm recording. Sorry, Houston. All of us aboard the Aether are extremely excited. For the scientists, it is our first step within the Mars's way station designated Tartarus. Our returning armed guard tells us that Tartarus and its citizens are the future, and we cannot wait to see it. Many of us have been preparing for this trip since the abandoned way station was discovered 10 years ago. We have been reading and studying all archaeological notes and transmissions submitted from Tartarus in the last few years.
We're breaking atmosphere, Gates. The boys in the cockpit are having trouble reaching anyone from flight control. They want you up front when we reach the pit. The other eggheads are starting to crack.
Bishop, I don't think it's an appropriate time to call humanity's first colonization out of Earth's atmosphere a pit. And scientists are not eggheads, we're doctors. Can you not handle it? These transmissions are required by Houston per your contract and mine. They're meant to keep us sane and level-headed while in space.
Whatever you say, Doc. Grab the portable receiver and get up front. Spread that sanity to the other eggheads.
Houston, transmission 2-1 free will continue after a brief delay. This is Dr. Elena Gates, EN8965, signing off. This is Dr. Elena Gates, of the landing ship's Aether. We are seconds away from entering Mars' atmosphere and...
Shut that off, Gates.
We have to report this to Houston. Houston, Tartarus is dark. Officer Lawrence Bishop assumes a power failure. We believe that's why the pilots cannot reach flight control. We are attempting to land manually and will report back and...
God damn it, Gates, shut that off.
Houston, this is Dr. Gates, reporting from Flight Deck 04 of the Marsway Station designated Tartarus. We can't find anyone. Bishop and his men are talking about moving deeper into the station. It really is incredible. Under different circumstances, my team and myself would have liked to explore the architecture more. It is exhilarating to imagine that another society of higher-thinking life forms could create something so intricate and self-sustaining on such a dangerous terrain as Mars. I'm curious to know if the archaeologists that have been working here the last 10 years have managed to find an adjusted form of carbon dating. Could beings in space have been monitoring Earth and its evolution from this way station without us knowing?
We have to move, Gates. We gotta get the power back on. No telling when the life support went down. There's over 10,000 people in this station, and who knows how long they've been sucking up all the damn air.
We're moving deeper into Tartarus, Houston. Employee number 8965 signing off. They're gone! Everyone in Tartarus is gone! We followed Bishop and his men all over this damn station and there's no one left! I don't understand it. In the mess hall, there are half-eaten plates, as if they all had just sat down for dinner. There's even showers still running in the barracks. In hydroponics, we found planters and trowels scattered across the ground, like someone just evaporated in the middle of their work. Bishop can't explain it, and his men expect us to, because we're the eggheads, right? They left us here in the lab while they search for the power grid. Bishop hopes that they'll find survivors. Survivors? Survivors of what? I feel like I'm going crazy. This isn't what was supposed to happen. We were supposed to be a part of the greatest discovery in history. But here we are, possibly amidst the remains of humanity's most horrific tragedy.
Gates, do you read me?
Yes. Yes, Bishop. I can hear you. Did you find anyone?
Yeah, Doc. We found someone. I think it's one of the scientists from the labs. He's wearing one of those stupid white coats. We're having a hard time catching him, though.
Catching him? What do you mean?
No, I was hoping you could tell me, Doc. What have your boys found out in all those papers?
We're still working on it. One of the observation rooms here at Echo Free is sealed up. We're trying to figure out how to get it open when the power's back on. It would help if we had some light.
Yeah, well, we're still working on it. The egghead just ran into the electrical room. We'll find the breakers in there and get this place lit up. Just figure out what the hell is going on, would ya?
Yeah, I'm working on it, you piece of shit. Houston, I found some handwritten logs dated from the past few days. It looks like they were recorded by the main scientist charged with monitoring the life form until we arrived. Someone named Dr. Tegan Mayer, EN6714. Mayer was listing detailed descriptions over the time of the microorganisms designated Amira. And... Jesus. Oh my god. He started performing rogue experiments. No wonder these are written logs. He couldn't risk recording them.
Gate, my guys caught the survivor. He led us back to the breaker. We're gonna get the power back on. I'll let you know if we get anything from the egghead.
Mayer tried to reanimate Amira's tissue. He and his assistant used Echo Free to perform invasive tests until there was movement. Mayer says Amira started to flourish, but would become inactive at night. They started leaving it under controlled amounts of fluorescence. Its rate of growth increased exponentially until...
We've almost got the power back on, Gates. Tell me you found something. The egghead we caught isn't making a lot of sense. He keeps talking about the lights. We checked his employee number. He's a doc like you. Mayer's the name.
Until Amira showed signs of intelligent life. Mayer and his assistant sealed themselves in the observation chamber. They attempted to make direct contact with the organism found on Mars' surface. Mayer hoped it was a member of the race before, the ones who built Tartarus. He wanted to be the first person to communicate with it, and it... Oh god. Houston, It consumed the assistant's head. It escaped into the ventilation system. Mayor followed its progress until it had consumed every living thing inside the station. They're all dead.
Hang tight, eggheads. Power's almost up.
Amira only moves in the light. It avoids all dark areas and shadows in Tartarus. Mayor fled to the electrical grid. He started switching off the power to areas throughout the station one by one, until the only place Amira could go was Echo 3. I can't really read the last sentence. I think it says...
Don't turn on the lights!
Don't turn on the lights!
Don't fucking turn on the lights!
Hey, it's Teresa. Subscribe for more horror stories. After so many years of dreaming of it, life on Mars was almost a reality. Humanity was so close to finally, officially, being able to call the neighboring planet a second home. Slowly but surely, hundreds of very significant missions from all over the world have done incredible work to make this dream come true. The atmosphere of the planet was almost ready to be completely safe for humans to breathe naturally. All the primary buildings were standing proudly. It wasn't all just scientific bases anymore. There were hospitals, offices, hotels, and more. The first set of carefully planned neighborhoods were halfway done. The first few hundred inhabitants would be arriving very soon. One of the most important parts about making a new planet completely habitable for humans was making sure it was possible to harvest food. For decades, the best scientists have dedicated their lives to studying Mars' surface and soil, and the way our usual seeds reacted to it all. The process was succeeding greatly. It was proved that not only people on Mars could grow perfectly good fruits and vegetables, but also some lively flowers to make life just as colorful on a new planet. However, this red planet had its secrets. It comes as no surprise that human scientists aren't content with one discovery, with one success, with just one hypothesis confirmed. It is even less surprising that, under the motivation of profit, humans are unafraid to cross all boundaries, break all rules, skip over all warnings. Sometimes this could be rewarding and the source of some of the things humanity has created. But sometimes this greed can be responsible for the greatest horrors, the most catastrophic consequences, and the absolute worst-case scenario possible. In this case, everything started on the big facility where the agricultural development was taking place. More precisely, on a small building on its side. This discreet, almost unnoticeable place existed in a very confidential way. The people that worked there rarely left the building. They had dormitories on the upper floor, and they avoided interaction with all other fellow scientists. This extreme level of secrecy was due to the experiments that took place in that malicious and immoral building. It was called the Dark Venus Unit. Not an irony toward the planet, but in honor of the Venus flytrap, an infamous subject there. The Dark Venus Unit worked under the leadership of the brothers Gabe and Evan Clayton. Occasionally, some careful assistants passed by the unit, always under a mountain of non-disclosure agreements. But they never lasted long. This was due to many reasons. Partially, it was because the Clayton brothers weren't particularly kind and welcoming to strangers. Plus, they were extremely jealous and protective of their work. But a big part of the assistants' resistance to long-lasting work was because of the subject of the work itself. The things that the young scientists saw in the Dark Venus Unit were fascinating at first, but soon they would be troubling, and then problematic. But soon enough, they were utterly disturbing things. As soon as they walked down the stairs toward the basement of the building, though, every single one of them quit the day after. So most of the time, it was just Gabe and Evan. They worked diligently and passionately. They devoted their lives to the plants growing in the Dark Venus unit. They put their entire hearts into their work. But, as most people might argue upon discovering the horrible secrets these two men were responsible for, they had vile, dark, and venomous hearts. Before everything ended tragically, it started with a normal day. On the upper floor, Evan woke up in the mid-morning, feeling good about his day. He went through his morning routine and the basics of living in a secret laboratory on the surface of Mars. A healthy breakfast, a shower, a pristine suit, and a lab coat. And nobody could have guessed the things he had created. Then he descended to the main floor of the laboratory, where things could be unsettling for some people, but at first glance it was mostly just beautiful. There it was in all its glory. Rows upon rows of the most incredible plants someone could imagine. Things that shouldn't be possible were made possible by Gabe and Evan. That was their job. They didn't manipulate the soil from Mars to adapt to the Earth's seed. They combined both and created unimaginable things. There was a section of fruits that, although beautiful, could melt human flesh. There was a table filled with rose bushes that vibrated and buzzed, and if cut from the stems, could move by themselves for days. Vegetables of impossible colors, leaves of irrational textures, roots moved like tentacles under the soil, and branches had hissed and grumbled when touched. Evan would spend his morning tending to these beautiful and sometimes hardly comprehensible plants he was responsible for. But first things first, he needed to check the specimens in the basement. That's where his brother would be waiting for him. Gabe took the night shift and Evan the day shift. But this day, things were different. Evan was walking toward the door that led to the basement when said door was slammed open. "Good, you're awake," Gabe said. He didn't look very relieved, though. He was sweating. His own tie was missing, and his entire self looked more than a little disheveled. "Lucy is giving me some trouble today," Gabe explained. The news made Evan gulp nervously. He was proud of their work. He didn't harvest a single regret in his heart. In fact, if given the chance to go even farther and test even more dangerous extremes, he would do so without batting an eyelash. That, however, didn't mean he couldn't experience fear of his own creations. Silently, the two brothers descended the stairs. There, they were greeted only by dim lighting, a tepid smell, and nearly suffocating humidity. The creatures in the basement preferred complete darkness, but the Clayton siblings weren't so sure they could survive down there without at least a little light. The basement worked very differently from the main floor. Down there were no tables, no order, and no rules. By the time Gabe and Evan discovered the unbelievable properties of the Mars surface, they decided to take two routes. They would harvest tulips that floated an inch above their stems on the main floor of the lab, and in the basement, they would grow their organic beasts. "How is everyone?" Evan asked, as he did every day upon descending the last step from the staircase and into the damp soil. His brother sighed gravely. He didn't have time for the usual routine, but he did his best. They passed by each of their most bizarre experiments. Bobby is in good shape, but he's nervous. He can sense there's something bad going on around him. Then Gabe pointed toward a 4-foot-tall translucent egg of gelatinous texture that had spurred, initially from a simple pumpkin seed. Debbie is under control as well. She's burning at just a slightly higher temperature than usual, but I don't think there's a reason to be concerned yet. Then Gabe waved toward a climbing plant that covered one corner of the room. From its blossoms somehow flower small rivers of burning lava, which pooled at that one impenetrable corner, kept contained by a special barrier about a foot tall. "And that's it," Gabe stated grimly. "What do you mean?" his brother inquired a little breathlessly. "What about Thomas?" A sort of cactus that grew under a protective glass dome due to its ability to shoot its thorns at random intervals. And the twins? A pair of immense Venus flytraps with sharp teeth that constantly tried to eat each other. "And they're gone, Evan!" Gabe snapped. "Lucy attacked, okay? She ate them all." There was a moment of tense silence, and each brother knew exactly what the other was thinking. Lucy was the best and worst of their creations. Like most things that had been left in the basement, Lucy was born as an accident. They experimented with different seeds from Earth and different treatments to the soil from Mars. One day they got a leaf, and it was stronger than steel. They watched in awe as the Lucy grew. More and more leaves getting bigger, heavier, stronger, impenetrable, unkillable. It was an extremely complex plant resembling a moss-green crab the size of a crocodile that slithered freely in the darkness of that secret basement. Then the roots started moving and leaving the earth underneath and exploring the expanse of the room. Soon enough, they confirmed their suspicions. Lucy had developed a conscience. Before Evan could ask, Gabe said it. "She went underground. I can't find her, but I can feel her moving underneath my feet, I think. She's waiting to attack. I don't care what you think, Evan. I'm calling this off, and I'm going to go get help." As if their devilish plant had listened to her creator speaking ill of her, she silently creeped out from the soil and attacked. But not the Clayton brothers. No. First, the monster raised a powerful leaf in the air and struck Bobby, the mysterious egg. It cracked and spilled in a furious splash, leaking something akin to amniotic fluid all over the ground. The smell was awful, but the real bone-chilling factor was the nearly deafening cry of a baby, or whatever frightening thing was lying at the bottom of the broken egg. With their shoes wet and their hearts racing, the Clayton brothers didn't even have time to react before they heard an even more alarming crash, like a hammer coming down on a building. Lucy's steel-like leaves came down on the barrier that kept the lava contained, and suddenly it was starting to spill forward. Evan and Gabe started screaming. They ran toward the stairs, but from the ground a massive leaf burst out, blocking their way and threatening to smash them down. They tried to turn to their right, but the lava was spreading faster and faster. They switched to their left, but the baby's cries were growing louder and louder, though not enough to hide the sound of a third and maybe fourth set of footsteps splashing on the spilled liquid. Refusing to see the monsters they had created, the brothers ran in the opposite direction, even though there was no exit. They scurried from side to side, but they still felt the ground trembling underneath their feet with the power of an unexplainable creature hunting them down. Finally, Evan grabbed his brother's arms and stopped him. Then he told him, "Lucy was mine, right from the beginning. I'd let this go for too long. Go get help, or let us destroy ourselves here quietly. But save yourself." Evan pushed his brother as hard as he could away from him. Gabe fell down near the stairs, and he had no option but to watch his brother stand tall, while 5 massive leaves erupted from the ground and stood menacingly over him. Mercifully, the last of the light bulbs went out in that instant. The 2 brothers screamed in agony at the same time. But only one of them made it out of there alive.
Here she is, Mr. Vice President. We'll get some answers. Everyone, quiet. Welcome, Flight Engineer Melinda Tate. I'd like to introduce you to the Vice President of the United States, our Director of Homeland Security, as well as several members of our agency's ranks, as well as your own delegate from NASA. They will be joining us during this interview. I am Agent Elizabeth Keynes of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and I don't care who you are. I just want to go home. Well, Tate, I'm afraid you won't be able to return to your loved ones until we learned of what occurred during your last mission. Do you understand? You already know what happened. They all died. What else is there? They did not simply die, Tate. They are missing in action. And you are the only one left. You will be answering my questions if you ever want to see your family again. Do we understand each other? I'll answer your questions, Agent, if you answer mine. I don't answer to you. Then just one. Do you believe in ghosts? Quiet! This is no time for games, Tate. You're facing serious charges. You may have survived, but this could still end with you losing your life. Do you understand? You want answers? I'm trying to give them to you. Shut up and listen. Alright. Then tell us, what does the last voyage of the landing shuttle Polis have to do with ghosts? Everything. It has everything to do with it. We spent years preparing for this mission. They only paid the best for the Polis crew and trained us rigorously for Earth's first landing on the surface of Mars. We never truly knew what to expect, but we were trained to be primed for anything. Somehow, we still weren't prepared for what transpired. Go on, Tate. Tell us what happened. The voyage was normal. Even when we broke Mars's atmosphere, we landed safely with no complications. I sat on the flight deck for an hour after the touchdown, while the mission specialist deboarded and started gathering specimens from the red planet's surface. As a flight engineer, there were very few circumstances that allowed me to leave Polis's interior. There were only 5 of us. While our commander and the 3 science pilots made history, I remained stoically on board. I was a dedicated and determined soldier. I didn't mind being left with the ship. To be honest, it's probably what saved my life. I watched their work through the ship's exterior cameras. The commander kept in constant contact and provided me with updates throughout. Even from my seat in the cockpit, the view of Mars was incredible, and I was fulfilling a childhood dream. Until the commander made a discovery. There were signs of life. On the harsh terrain, our commander found what appeared to be a pre-existing work site, much like our own. When he described it, he sounded almost scared. He was the most seasoned of us, so naturally his fear infected us all. I found myself shuffling through feeds until I found a camera view that was looking directly over where the ground crew had moved. The commander was standing near a series of deteriorated shelves and miscellaneous instruments, just like the ones we brought to Mars ourselves. While he described the scene to me, I finally noticed that there was something wrong with the camera's image. There was 5 astronauts standing around the lab's remain. Not 4, 5. Had your crew fully recovered from flight? Had the physician tested all of your vitals? Are you sure of... Yes, Agent. I'm sure of what I saw. There was an astronaut standing behind the science pilots. He was not one of our crew, but he was wearing our uniform. I took so much time making sure that I was truly seeing him that I waited too long to say anything. He extended his arms and pulled our physician to the ground. I watched in horror, when in a matter of minutes, the other astronauts struggled to fix his suit while he suffocated to death. To death? Yes. Despite all of our training, the doctor died. When they pulled his corpse on board, his skin was purple and swollen. It was like he exploded from the inside. I didn't know how to tell the others about the man I saw sabotage his suit. So, I tried to show them. You played back the tape. We all gathered around the screen. I got sick all over myself watching the physician claw at his helmet. The other science pilots rushed to the lavatories while all life extinguished from him. Our commander kept the contents of his stomach down and ordered that I play it back again. And what did he see? He ordered me not to tell the others, and he made me focus on the screen and see for myself. The astronaut that killed our doctor. His face was wrong. It was purple, swollen. He couldn't have been alive like that. He looked just like the dead man in our med bay. The commander and I never said it, but something in me knew. Knew what? That the astronaut that killed the doc was dead. Maybe the commander and I would have eventually admitted it to one another, but we didn't have time. We looked up and saw something else. A massive wall of rolling dust and debris was heading our way. Unlike the dead saboteur, this is something we were prepared for. In the event of a Martian dust storm, we were to evacuate the planet's surface until it was deemed safe to approach. But the commander was not ready to leave. Quiet! And what did the commander do? He couldn't wait for an answer. He told me that if anything went wrong, to immediately abort the mission and head home. I tried to talk him out of it, but nothing would change his mind. He ordered one of the other pilots to accompany him. They got back in their suits and connected themselves to the ship's tow wrench. The commander told me no matter what, the other officer and myself were to remain inside. The scientist left on board with me remained in her suit and monitored the tether. She stayed in the decompression chamber, near the hatch, to quickly let the others back inside. The commander and the other pilot went into the dust storm. His reports back were distorted and filled with static, but I understood everything that happened next. He went back to where the dead man sabotaged the doc's suit. He searched the site and the dirt surrounding it until he found something. Buried in the dirt from the storms and time was a weathered uniform of a crew member of the landing craft Polis. Within the suit were several human bones that were almost completely deteriorated. The commander ordered his co-pilot to immediately return, but then there was all this screaming. The commander reported 2 rogue astronauts in the storm. They were standing next to the tow lines. He told us to reel them back inside. Reel us in! Reel us in! The strange astronauts were touching the lines. The inside of their helmets were filled with blood and flesh, but he couldn't see their faces. They didn't have any. They ripped the lines apart and the commander and the pilot were crying. They were screaming until their voices drifted away and we couldn't hear them anymore. I started the flight sequence. I ordered the other scientist left inside to come back to the cockpit, but she wasn't responding. I could hear the echo in the ship. I left the flight deck and ran to the hatch. She was there, locked inside the decompression chamber, pressing a million buttons, trying to come back inside. An astronaut was standing behind her. He didn't have a face. I stared into the empty shell of blood and guts and watched while the hatch opened, and both the science pilot and the ghost were sucked into a vacuum created by the Martian dust storm. They were all gone. It was like a nightmare. I wasn't waking up, but I refused to die with them. I ran back to the cockpit, strapped myself in, and finished the sequence to come home. When I finally breached Mars's atmosphere, I looked back towards the surface. The storm was massive from space. It looked like a swirling inferno of fire and wind. I imagined the others' bodies swirling in the chaos. I cried for them. I didn't stop crying until I saw Earth again. I smiled, thinking I had finally made it back home. But now I know. You're never gonna let me out of here. Why do you think that, Flight Engineer Tate? If what you say is true, and you didn't kill your fellow astronauts, why wouldn't we let you go home? You're right, Agent. I didn't kill them. But I know too much. I know that they didn't tell us the truth. I know they didn't tell anyone. This was the second flight of the Polis. The country's unpreparedness cost the lives of several brave men and women in the original voyage. How many of them were there, by the way? On the Polis's first flight? 4. There were 4. Maybe that's why I'm still alive. There wasn't a ghost left to kill me. They already got their retribution. Now that everything's out in the open, Tate, why not be honest with me? Why not tell me what really happened to your fellows? We both know that Ghost did not kill them. You're right, Agent Keynes. Ghost didn't kill the men and women of either crew. You assholes did.
Hello, this is Dr. Edmund Walker. Most people call me Ed. I don't know who will end up listening to this, or even if you should, but I am a scientist and believe that some information should be available to those who seek it. So whether you're an officer of the Galactic Security Services, who has finally arrested me for desertion, or a nosy drifter that happened upon this tape, either way, the story I'm about to tell you is not an invitation. It's a warning. When I was a boy growing up in Georgia, it was a dream of mine that one day I would work for NASA. Well, I actually did. Not as a brave astronaut like I always imagined, but as a temporary hire with a fancy title. Mission Specialist Ed Walker is what they called me. It's been years since humanity managed to colonize on Mars. Thankfully, this venture brought all of Earth's nations even closer together. Who would have thought that something like a massive arc to space would bring about world peace? People unified and have been thriving on the Red Planet. Instead of ambitions to reach outer space, I found myself dreaming of making it to Mars itself and being one of the scientists that gets to delve further into the planet's unknown and mysterious history. My father always said, you should be careful what you wish for. Damn it. They called it the parallel anomaly. It's an immaturely described glass-like gateway into another dimension. When I was brought aboard the project, I was informed that the anomaly's existence was to remain top secret. That until what it was and where it came from had been established, there was no need to disturb our hard-sought peace. At the times, I saw their intentions as level-headed, even noble. Noble my ass. They just didn't want to deal with the red tape of a dozen nations to send me in, and I was too excited to notice. Now that I look back, I see it as a hard lesson. Some things, man, just shouldn't poke their noses into. Sometimes we should just run. Well, I did it. Run, that is. I shoved my nose right on in. NASA and the boys at GSS made it easy. They said they needed me. That my theory and study regarding the existence of alternate and varying dimensions of reality was crucial to researching man's most recent discovery on Mars. I took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. I didn't ask questions about risk or dangers. Not when they strapped me into a shuttle for the first time and shot me to Mars. Not when they took me on an overhead viewpoint of the anomaly, where I ignored a perfectly circle of armed guards and wired fence line. And of course, I said affirmative when they asked me, do you understand all risk and possibilities of harm you are subjecting yourself to? I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening. I was staring. It was more beautiful than I could have ever imagined. While they shoved a helmet over my head, I stood several yards away from the parallel anomaly. I almost cried. It was an intimidating 10 feet in height, and its width pushed between 2 and 5 feet. It was like liquid glass that rippled and scattered outwards until it dissipated into Mars's empty atmosphere. It looked like chrome, reflective and shiny. I felt as if I was seeing the face of God himself. Yeah, God. You know something? I think God turned his back on Mars a long time ago. He certainly wasn't watching out for me that day. They hooked me up to a giant tow wrench. They told me that no matter what happens, I would be securely tethered, and there was no risk of me simply disappearing. I guess they'd hope I would sacrifice myself in the name of science and jump headfirst into another reality. God knows, I wanted to. The first steps I took into the circle of guards were timid. Whether I wanted to admit it to myself or not, I was afraid. The closer I got, the more I noticed that the anomaly was softly pulsing. It was as if it were breathing. I felt like it was pulling me, drawing me closer and closer towards it. A wave of healing warmth and comfort washed over me. So, I let it. Eventually, I was standing within arm's reach. The chrome rippling surface solidified when I drew near, and I could see my own reflection inside, like a breathing mirror. And then, I saw it. The murky, shadowy visage of a person on the other side. It was as if they were standing just behind me. I even turned around, but I only saw the men and women I had passed previously. They looked on with wide eyes and open mouths from a safe distance. There was no one standing behind me on the surface of Mars. But when I looked back into the anomaly, it was there. The Shadow Man. He drew closer and closer until I could make out his face. Damn it. It was my father in the mirror. He stood behind me and smiled. I felt as if he were proud of me. More people started showing up. My mother, little sister, grandparents, and even my best friend that passed away long ago. Loved ones I had lost and never thought I would see again were all there. They were all on the other side of the parallel anomaly, all with bright smiles. They were there. All of them. I could see them, and all I needed to do was reach out and I would feel my mother's face again. I plunged my fully covered arm into the void and waited for a feeling. Any sensation that would satisfy a need that had been building since I first laid my eyes on the anomaly. Please, I thought, please take me with you. The feelings began slow. It started at my fingertips and gradually moved up my wrist until it engulfed my arm entirely. My heart didn't want to admit it, but my brain knew that my skin was on fire. I looked to their faces for answers. Their smiles were gone. They were screaming. They were in pain. Invisible flames had consumed them, and their flesh was melting away. I could see nothing but skin melting into bone, and the frantic eyes of my mother and father that seemed to say, "Please, please take us with you." But I couldn't. I couldn't move. I couldn't break free. They were holding me inside. I started screaming, "Pull me back! Pull me back! For the love of God, pull me back! You bastards!" The tow wrench couldn't reel me in fast enough. Every second felt like an eternity. I watched my reflection in the anomaly as my own flesh melted away and exposed the stark white of my bones beneath. I screamed in the other dimension, and I screamed in this one. As a scientist, I can't explain it. When they managed to get me out of the suit, my flesh was fine. The suit didn't suffer any damage, and neither did my arm. Even now, it burns like a forgotten scar. The pain I felt never truly goes away. It's only dulled my senses to the point that I just don't notice it anymore. No. As a scientist, I cannot explain what happened on Mars, but as a man, I believe evil has infested Mars itself. I, Ed Walker, reached into the abyss and somehow I survived the cold touch of hell's fire.
Welcome to the Dark Cosmos. I'm Kira and I'll be narrating today's story. Hope you enjoy. This was never our world. This was never our planet. Man had succeeded in colonizing Mars. We had brought our technology into this new world, and we were advancing at a rapid rate. Everything was moving so fast. The last few years have witnessed a massive revolution of technology on the Earth. Teleportation and artificial intelligence technology has become a thing of the past, and I had just received news this morning that my boss, Dr. Carter, had just succeeded in building the first ever time travel device. It was linked to a spaceship that could travel to and in time. This groundbreaking discovery will completely change the course of science relating to physics, time, and cosmology. This changes everything, and our definition of the past, present, and future will need to be reviewed. Dr. Carter had always made a statement about this concept of time. Time is a constant that spins on eternity's watch, she had once said. I would, however, confess that even though I am proud of being a part of the team to birth such a historic discovery, I do, however, feel the evils that this device would attract. I am still trying to wrap my head around the concept of time travel, despite several classes from Dr. Carter herself. It was a world of knowledge and theories, which many still see as thousands of years beyond our level of advancement. But Dr. Carter had managed to break the bonds of time, both literally and figuratively. "Kathy, briefing in 5!" A familiar voice echoed behind me. I nodded in understanding, cleared my table, and stormed out of my bunker. I had awoken not long ago, and I had been waiting for Dr. Carter's lecture and plans. Everyone was rooting to hear what Dr. Carter had in mind for her new toy. As I stormed out of my room, I could see a few men sprinting towards the main lab at a distance. People rarely ran over here. There was usually no reason to. The shocking part of Dr. Carter's discovery was her secret ingredient, as she often called it. It was here, on Mars. Ever since we came to Mars, the speed of advancement in our technology has doubled over the past decade. There was a heavily guarded secret, known only by the highest echelon of scientists present on the mission. The missing puzzle piece to all of the Earth's previous discoveries. A few years ago, we could only dream about teleportation. It seemed like an impossible feat, but we had proven that nothing is impossible in the world of science. Just as a crusader in the medieval age would have seen the rise of the internet and mobile phones as impossible, that's how we viewed the possibility of the invention of teleportation. That I could travel long distances at the snap of a finger, and although teleportation is bound by several rules, it has become a norm in recent years. But then, when we all thought that we had seen enough, Dr. Carter had proven us all wrong. She had just invented a time travel machine. When I reached the lab, I noticed that the men who had just stormed into the lab were mumbling a few words to Dr. Carter. She seemed to be surprisingly engrossed in whatever they were saying. My curiosity flared. I needed to know. "What's going on, Max?" Max was my colleague. He also stood amongst the crowd, listening attentively to every word. He ignored my question. "Max, come on. What's all the ruckus about?" I was intent on finding out.
"They say they saw signs of life along the Northwest Valley. Something about a cadaver?"
"Cadaver?" I whispered. "But humans were only allowed entry into Mars last week, and no deaths have been recorded yet."
"That's the weird part, Kathy.
Maxwell replied.
They say it ain't human."
"Nah, quit messing around. That's not possible." I struggled to believe the existence of such a disturbing fact. If this was true, this discovery could give rise to an entirely different era of research and theories. new questions and concepts of everything. This was huge, and with the invention of teleportation and time travel, oh my god, time travel! The realization suddenly hit me as I thought about the vast possibilities of time travel. I could bet that Dr. Carter would want to know who the first inhabitants of Mars were and what happened to the planet. I was still lost in thought when the top echelon of scientists, led by Dr. Carter, sped out of the facility. I didn't need to be told where they were headed. I joined the train. There was very little staff employed, only the very best in each field. The knowledge of the construction of a time machine was a heavily guarded secret, only revealed to a few of us, and even the outside world was oblivious to the presence of such an advanced device. As we glided inside our mini space pods towards the site of the discovery, I could not help but imagine a truth of such relevance in the fabric of time and reality, and I was also a part of the discovery of these huge markers in the timelines of history. We soon arrived at the site, and after several investigations, we discovered that they were right. Something else had walked in this planet, centuries before us, and it was definitely not human. Dr. Carter was silent throughout the investigation. No one knew what was going through her head, but we all had a clue. Regardless, we soon got to find out. I couldn't sleep. The night had collided with my growing curiosity, and I had lost the contest. I was crushed under the cruel whips of mixed emotions. Fear and excitement ravaged through my entire being, as thoughts of whatever adventure awaited me in the next few hours stole my sleep. I was scared of a possible malfunction of the unknown expectations that awaited us, but I could not help the excitement of traveling back into the past and exploring the unknown history of Mars. Why me? I wondered. There were so many other scientists who could have embarked on this mission, but she decided to choose me. I wasn't even sure she remembered my name, so it had come as a surprise when she called me to join her team, who were going to be the first set of scientists to test the time travel machine. I was a bit skeptical, but the only thing that assured me was Dr. Carter's confidence in her work. She was also going with us. She wanted to find out what happened to Mars, so we were journeying into the past of a strange planet to discover what secrets lay. The hour soon came with a strange anxiety. I could hear my heart pound loudly as we stepped aboard the time spaceship. Kronos. What better name than the Greek god of time himself? We braced ourselves to launch into a world of unknown possibilities, and we prepared to be named as the first men to travel back in time. Dr. Carter had made sure to take the necessary precautions before jumping on board the Kronos. I didn't bother too much about the long theories and mechanics of time travel. As long as Dr. Carter was with us, I was sure that we were all in safe hands. There was 4 of us, and we were all ready to make history. I shot a quick glance at Dr. Carter just before we launched back into the past. Her eyes shone with childlike wonder. She was eager to see what her discovery could achieve, and the many secrets which the past held. She was the only one amongst us all who didn't have any tint of fear. We strapped on our spacesuits and prepared for the journey into the unknown. Dr. Carter had used the alien remains as a time compass. "Who is ready to make history?" Dr. Carter said calmly. We all smiled eagerly. Those were the last words that were said in the present. In a flash, Kronos took off. As we traveled across thousands of specters of light, everything seemed to blur around us. Kronos seemed to be the only thing protecting us from tearing into 1,000 expressions of sound and light. My sight began to dim, and I began to feel nauseated. I attempted to fight off the feeling, but I couldn't. Next came darkness. "Kathy! Kathy!" I could hear calm whispers of my name. "Kathy!" This time, it came with a certain urgency. My eyes shot open. I rose to my feet, struggling to achieve balance. I scanned around the new environment, and my eyes were instantly welcomed by a terrifying sight. "Where the hell is this place?" I asked, perplexed, and slowly turned to Dr. Carter. "I made a mistake." Those were not the words I wanted to hear, but I instantly knew we were in trouble. "I should not have used the remains of that creature as a time compass," Dr. Carter whispered. "It took us back to the exact time when that creature had died. It seemed as though the creature had died right in the worst possible time. We had arrived on Mars in the middle of some war. I could not call it a war anyway. It was a massacre. Whoever or whatever waged war on the inhabitants of Mars was much more advanced in technology and might. They burnt down everything that crawled to ashes, and we could hear the loud cries of the Martians from a distance. Mars was boiling hot. Everything seemed to be going down in flames, and so we couldn't picture a pre-war era. Whatever battle was being fought had been going on for a very long time. The very core of Mars was destroyed, like it had been poisoned with some sort of substance. We had no idea who the invaders were, and we were certainly not willing to stick around to find out either. They looked terrifying enough from a distance, and that was enough warning for us. "We need to get out of here now!" I let out in terror. I shot a quick glance at our ship. The engineer seemed to be fixing something. "We crashed into a small debris. It's not major damage, and he should be done soon." The strange calmness in Dr. Carter's voice was beginning to make me feel more uneasy. She seemed to be more engrossed in the heated clash and chaos in the distance than she was about us returning to the present in one piece, and perhaps correcting her error. "I don't think we have a soon," I let out in frustration. I had just finished speaking when the loud bang erupted very close to our location. I swallowed hard as I did a double take at the engineer, who was still fixing the ship. Our gazes met, and for all our sakes, we hoped that it was just an explosion. Fate frowned on us as a massive, otherworldly creature sprung out of the dark soil and lunged towards us. It looked neither like the inhabitants of the planet nor the invaders. The creature had spikes all over its body, and it was covered in red dust. Dr. Carter gazed in awe at the humongous beast. There was certainly no way 4 scientists were going to bring down such a massive creature. It looked like a small dragon without legs. "It's headed for the Kronos! That's our only ticket out of here!" I screamed. "We need a distraction!" Everyone scampered away from the creature, shifting its focus away from the ship. The creature moved at an unbelievable speed, and we knew it was just a matter of time before it had one of us in its grasp. As the screams of one of ours echoed through the region, drawing a lot of attention towards our location, I knew that we had to leave immediately, or we may never make it out. The invaders also heard the cry, as a few of them now rushed towards our direction. A strange feeling suddenly strolled across my mind. These mighty invaders were never meant to be aware of our existence. But what if we had just upset the flow of time by creating a memory of beings such as humans? Perhaps they would now have a memory of us in the present. I shrugged off the dreadful thought as I shifted my gaze towards Kronos. Dr. Carter had crept into the ship, oblivious to the engineer, and she was already preparing to leave us behind. The strange creature now charged towards me as I sprinted towards our time-traveling ship. I was not far from the ship, and I jumped aboard just before Dr. Carter launched Kronos and darted back into the specter of light, despite my constant pleas. "How could you leave them behind?" I stared at Dr. Carter with rage. "Every discovery comes with a great price." Those were Dr. Carter's last words as we pierced through time back into the present. Repairs had not been completed before our launch, and I prayed underneath my breath that we were going to make it back in one piece, as sparks erupted at every corner of the spaceship. We made it back with a massive explosion, destroying Dr. Carter's life's work in the process. Her time machine shattered as we emerged in our present. Even though Dr. Carter knew her mistake, the time travel device was destroyed, and I would definitely not be looking forward to another time travel experience. I needed some rest after that chaotic event. We had lost 2 good scientists on this mission, and it would be a long time before Dr. Carter would be allowed to experiment with further projects. Or probably not. I remember the last words she said to me as we returned to the present. I knew that it wouldn't be long before she began messing around with time travel again.